another entry
in our newly christened bit we're going to start doing. Cut the shit. How bad is it? Taking like mixed critical stuff. People, you know, might be wondering like, how bad is this thing? We've already decided Sonic Adventure is the worst thing ever, and now we move on to Crimson Peak, a very recent film that only came out about 3 weeks ago or something.
And it's long left the theatres.
Long left the theatres. Has it been a flop?
Yes. Kind of. It's yeah. Not a massive one, but a bit of a disappointment, I think.
Yeah. Well, it got very mixed. The reason it's obviously we're doing this is very, very mixed critical reception. Yes. People saying it was either very good or rubbish.
Yeah. So it's the newest film from visual maestro Guillermo del Toro. I say visual maestro because I think his films are always visually phenomenal, and he's a brilliant art designer. Some of them I think lack a bit of a punch.
Oh yeah.
But his classic ones like Pan's Labyrinth and Devil's Backbone I think are great films. Pan's Labyrinth in particular, that's a really great film, and Devil's Backbone has a really haunting, chilling atmosphere to it.
I've never seen Devil's Backbone. The ones I've seen are the two Hellboy films.
I'm actually a big fan of the Hellboy films.
I think they're very good. Yeah. And I've seen Kronos.
I've not seen Kronos.
I don't really like it. It's just that kind of thing. It looks very nice, but I don't need any substance to it.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I'm a big fan of the two Hellboy films. I think they're some of the better superhero films.
Yeah.
Especially the second one. The second one, if you're into like 80s, like if you liked Army of Darkness, like Hellboy 2 is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
I love all the visuals and the design of the creatures, and again, because what's good about Del Toro is he puts a placement on shooting things practically. He wants to get it all in the camera.
Yeah.
You know, if he can do as little CGI as possible, the better.
Yeah.
I would have been desperate to see his Hobbit films.
They would have been great.
Like everybody. But he said he did Pacific Rim
first, yeah.
Which I really like Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim's a really fun little film. It's got great visuals, it's very exciting, it's a fun story, it's bright, it's colourful, it's got a multinational different racial cast. Interracial cast, yeah. Yeah, it's great, I'm a big fan of it. So, Crimson Peak is kind of like another attempt at making a kind of an audience film.
Yeah.
And the problem with the film is that it's been horribly mismarketed.
I was going to say, is this a horror film?
No.
Well, that's how it's been advertised.
No, it's not a horror film whatsoever. To understand what it is to have an understanding of Gothic literature and Gothic film. So, I think the key text to understanding Crimson Peak is the Emily Bronte book Wuthering Heights.
It's me, Kathy.
Whoa. Yeah, Wuthering Heights.
Well, have I read it?
Yeah.
No, I've read a bit of it, and I've watched a really weird film adaptation, but only always cut out the end or something.
Yeah, they always cut the second half, yeah.
Yeah.
Wuthering Heights is an excellent book.
I hear it's amazing. Heathcliff. Everyone knows the story anyway.
Yeah, but the story of two lovers, Heathcliff who is a dirty kind of like
Isn't he a Moor?
He's a gypsy.
Okay.
And he's characterised as being from like a lower class, and he falls in love with Kathy, who's from like a higher aristocracy in the Yorkshire Dales. The two of them have a whirlwind Gothic romance with each other. Obviously, they die together kind of thing. Anyway, Kathy gets sick and she dies, and then Heathcliff becomes a very cold, distant man. He eventually becomes the master of Wuthering Heights, and it's through Kathy's children helping to redeem himself. It's a classic story.
Yeah.
But it's mostly characterised as being a Gothic romance with ghost elements in there. The framing narrative of the story is a man who is staying at Wuthering Heights, and one night, on his first night staying there, he's haunted by the ghost of Kathy knocking at the bedroom door.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit ambiguous about whether he's crazy or whether it's an actual ghost, but it's a world where it seems that ghosts cohabitate with the living.
Yep.
Whether we're aware of it or not. No, it's like, ooh, I'm a ghost. But like the spirits are kind of their kind of thing. Another key film it reminds me of is The Innocents. And The Innocents is one of the best horror films of all time.
Okay.
It's a British-made horror film made in the 60s. It's a chilling, haunting film. Have you not seen it?
I've heard of it. I knew what it was when you said, but I've never seen it. No.
The Innocents is absolutely...
Who's in it?
No one really famous. Not I can think of. It's about a woman called. She's only called the Duchess.
Yeah.
And she has to go to this mansion to look after these two kind of terrifying children, like in the Victorian age. And anyway, the whole thing becomes like a supernatural thriller as these secrets are unveiled, and there's a really dark, sickly underlay to the whole film. There's a really chilling, haunting imagery, and it's an absolutely excellent film. So I think they're the kind of key things to understand with Crimson Peak, is that it comes from the tradition of Gothic literature, not out and out horror, which is kind of what Crimson Peak is trying to do, which kind of a long around way brings me to the actual film. So Crimson Peak follows the story of Mia Wachowski, which I can't say her last name.
Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. I'll call her Alice. So Alice is a part of the aristocracy in the newly formed America. It's kind of the saying's really nice. It's kind of like when America's first becoming founded and all that, and the making progress and all that.
Yeah.
She is visited by Tom Hiddleston, who is a kind of a eccentric British man who's from Cumberland, which you now call Cumbria.
Yeah.
And he heralds from a family who own a mansion called Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
And basically, it's been about a month since I watched the film now. He's trying to get money together to put his invention together. Crimson Peak, the mansion basically lies on a hill which is filled with clay.
Yeah.
Like clay which when it gets mixed in with rain, makes it look like blood. So like during the winter time when it rains, all the clay rises to the top and it looks like the hill's bleeding blood kind of thing. Anyway, so he wants to fund this invention, so he's travelling around looking for people to fund his invention. So he goes to Alice's father, played by Jim Beaver of Deadwood fame.
Yeah.
Mr. Ellsworth.
Yeah.
So Tom Hiddleston tries to get Ellsworth to kind of fund his clay machine thing.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't trust her. Who the fuck do you think you are? And then Tom Hiddleston's like, oh shit, right. Well, I'll try and get him with his daughter, and try and get to see it my way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Jim Beaver's very suspicious of this whole thing. He's just like, get away from my daughter. What are you doing? You creepy. Back off, kind of thing. So eventually, Jim Beaver is who he hires someone to investigate into Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hiddleston's sister, like what their true intentions are. And he discovers a dark secret about the two of them, but he's killed before he's able to reveal it by.
As happens in every single one of these kind of films.
Yeah. And without knowing any better, Tom Hiddleston whisks Alice away to England to live in the mansion King Crimson. Crimson Peak.
It sounds a bit like Dracula.
A little bit, yeah. There's certainly Dracula elements to it.
Yeah.
And anyway, Alice then is slowly beginning to unravel the mystery behind this family and behind the mansion of Crimson Peak and the ghostly undercurrents that are going on and the ghosts that haunt Crimson Peak. And she eventually unravels a mystery involving murder, incest, and intrigue, yeah, and murdered ex-wives.
Okay.
So
who's right then? Is this an awful film or a good film?
Oh, I think it falls in between.
In between.
I don't think it's awful.
No.
I think that's incredibly unfair towards the film. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
It's so well made. The design and the colours and the mansion set is absolutely phenomenal. It cannot be underestimated how great that set is. What's cool about the place, about Crimson Peak, is that it's actually rotting.
Yeah.
It's actually sinking into the ground, so in like a few decades' time it will completely just collapse into the mansion. But because of that, like a massive holes opening up in between the ceiling and the floor, and like going into the basement.
Yeah.
So you have really cool stuff like you have like snow coming down the middle of it, and you have like leaves coming down. It's a good way of signifying the turn of the seasons.
Yeah.
So the actual look of the film is absolutely phenomenal. The acting's pretty good actually.
Well, that woman's in it was always really good. Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, she plays Tom Hiddleston's kind of disturbed sister.
Is she really good as well?
She's really good in the film. Yeah, she plays the cold kind of matriarch who's always in these kind of stories.
Yeah.
The one who holds the secrets and the keys. And what this actually most reminds me of is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter.
Oh yeah.
Which is a collection of Gothic reimagining of fairy tales. and in particular the actual title story, The Bloody Chamber, which is, I believe, is a retelling of Bluebeard.
Okay.
And in that story, this woman gets married and then she discovers that her husband has actually murdered all these women.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of a twist in it in Crimson Peak. They kind of take them all to steal the money to fund the machine and keep it going. You think it's all for money, but it's actually because these two brother and sister are actually kind of twisted and fucked up, and they just enjoy killing each other because it gets them off towards each other. It's all fairly disturbing. Again, very gothic.
Yeah.
You know, but the whole idea of gothic storytelling is secrets hidden behind locked doors kind of things, and there's great sequences of Alice like walking through the mansion, trying to get to the trying to get to the door, but it's locked, and she has to find a way of unlocking the keys and all that. And there's lots of really great imagery in the film. Lots of really great symbolism in the film.
Yeah.
I think the film's problem is that it's a little bit lightweight.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to it. I was very entertained by the film. Again, as a fan of kind of gothic literature and kind of gothic horror films, I really enjoyed the film.
Well, I imagine the atmosphere is great.
Yeah, the atmosphere is really good, yeah. And I love the way Del Toro reimagines ghosts. Okay. It's a version of ghosts which you've never really seen before.
Yeah.
He kind of makes them as almost like zombie-esque, or makes them kind of see-through. It's really cool. Look them up on Google or something. The actual design of the ghosts is really unique and different. They're not just like ooh, they're actually kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
But again, the whole idea of the film is not, I think, for scares. It's to kind of create a kind of a spooky atmosphere more than anything.
Yeah.
Again, people seeing it as trying to be an out-and-out horror film, I think, is a bit of a mistake. The posters I've seen kind of remind me of like a Suspiria kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of not that.
No.
Instead, it's more of Guillermo del Toro's love letter to classic gothic fiction and film, basically. In the same way that Pacific Rim was a big love letter to, a kaiju, rock'em sock'em robot movies from Japan and all that.
Well, it seems very in keeping with like Pan's Labyrinth, which isn't a horror film. It's more of a drama, really. Isn't it?
Fantasy drama. Yeah, with some horror elements in it.
Yeah, like there's no real bits like jump scares, or it's all atmosphere and stuff. It's sort of in keeping in with that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and Devil's Backbone's like that as well. Well, like in Devil's Backbone, it's about a kid going to an orphanage during the Spanish Civil War, and there's a ghost haunting the orphanage, and there's a real atmosphere to the film, and it's all about again secrets locked underneath the basement kind of thing. There's a dark undertone secret to to what's going on. And Crimson Peak kind of continues that thing. The only thing I would say against it is that with Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth, Del Toro was able to make kind of commentary on the effects that war had on Spain and the effects war has in general.
Yeah.
In that it affects the psyche and psychology of children.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's concentrating on. So in Pan's Labyrinth, it's no wonder that the dreams that are the visualization of this girl's fantasies are as disturbing as what's happening in
real
reality.
Yeah.
So there's a great sequence in Pan's Labyrinth where the guy's been tortured.
Yeah.
Does his ear get chopped off or something? Or something happens?
I watched it in college. I can't remember it much now. Yeah.
Something happens to him. Well, I think his eye gets poked out or his ear gets chopped off. It's really disturbing, and it's just as disturbing as the guy with like the hands, with the eyes kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder that this child's fantasies are so messed up, and it's the effects that war has on the psyches of innocence, basically.
Yeah.
And again, the same way that with Devil's Backbone, the way war and the past is coming back to haunt these people in the present, and the way the past has an effect on people, you can't really escape the traumas of the past. Crimson Peak doesn't really have any of that.
No.
It's just fairly lightweight. It's just a ghost story.
I wouldn't say there doesn't seem to be any commentary or anything. It does just sound like... I mean, you could do some really good class stuff, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, because it's about rich people, and but I suppose she's rich and all, isn't she?
That's it. Yeah. She's from a well-to-do background. She's like a writer. She wants to be a writer, and her dad's Ellsworth owns a very successful business, a mining business, and
a mining business.
I'm not sure it is a mining business, but I'm going to say it is.
He inherited it from his
from his granddad.
Yeah.
But the setting, the time when it's set's not too far away from the setting of Deadwood, so
yeah,
it's possible.
Well, isn't it a lot of the main, like, you know, classic Gothic literature, like Wuthering Heights,
Yeah.
Dracula, you know, that kind of turn of the century stuff's all about untamed passion and stuff like
That's
that.
it, yeah. But that's kind of definitely what Wuthering Heights is about, and that's kind of what feeds into the whole Gothic element. Like, you know, Cathy and Heathcliff's undying love for each other is literally undying, you know.
Yeah.
The final line of the book is, you know, all about, you know, I forgot the line is now, but, you know, like, sorry, I need to get it up. The character at the end, he's learned the story about Cathy and Heathcliff and what's happened, and I think Heathcliff just died at the end, and it's, you know, I lingered round them, because he goes to see the grave, and he's like, I lingered round them under that benign sky, watched the moths fluttering among the heath and the harebell bells, listened to the soft wind breathing through the grass, and wondered how anyone could ever imagine unquiet slumbers for the slumbers in that quiet earth.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, the idea that they've been through all these traumatic events together, they've never really found love for each other, and it's kind of, you know, could they ever find happiness even in death?
Yeah.
Kind of the idea of what that final line is. And that's the thing, you know, like, Crimson Peak kind of makes all these references to these great Gothic works, but it doesn't really do much with it.
No.
That's kind of my problem with the film. The twist at the end is kind of obvious, that, you know, obviously the one that killed Ellsworth was actually...
Spoiler.
Spoilers, yeah. The one who kills Ellsworth is Tom Hiddleston's crazy sister.
I had assumed that from the sort of poster trailer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can see the way she's acting. She's clearly insane.
Yeah.
I assumed the twist would be she was the architect of it all.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the whole thing of, like, trying to make this clay machine just a bit of a cover for his badness. But, you know, there's very some really great stuff in here.
Yeah.
So it's a very nice looking film. It does make all these homages to classic Gothic horror, but it does, like I said, doesn't do much with it, and that's my biggest problem with the film.
So to cut the shit, how bad is it?
It's not really bad at all, to be honest.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Average.
It's more average. It's, you know, if you know, at this time there's really not a lot out. You know, if you want to see, you know, you want to see it for a big audience that's well made, then I'd say either watch this or that Sicario.
Sicario is amazing.
Yeah. You know, watch Crimson Peak instead of Spectre.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because there is some worth to the way Del Toro made it, and to the look of the film, and to some of the acting, and there's some of the moments that, you know, they're really great moments.
Yeah.
It's just, it actually reminded me of yet another film which I watched very recently, which is Stoker, which I rewatched.
That's a great film.
Yeah, Stoker's a kind of classic Gothic horror story, really.
But that does it really cleverly, though.
With Hitchcockian elements, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes it really good. Yeah, it's very clever, very subtle.
Well, what makes it clever, spoiler for the end, is it's called Stoker, and the whole way through you think the guy's a vampire.
Yeah.
But it turns out he's just crazy, isn't he?
He's just a great... Well, he's been insane from kind of birth because he murders his little baby brother.
Yeah.
And they put him away in prison. Not prison, in a mental asylum, and... Mia Wachowski's father goes to pick him up and kills the father along the way, and that's kind of the truth behind it all.
Yeah.
But it's got elements of Hitchcock, it's got elements of Shadow of a Doubt, one of Hitchcock's best, most underrated films. So that's the thing with Crimson Peak, it just doesn't do a lot with the stuff. That's my biggest problem.
It's not as good as Stoker then.
It's not as good as Stoker. Like I said, as a fan of this kind of stuff, and as a fan of Del Toro, I enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
If you're a modern hip audience member looking for a scary movie, who's into like Paranormal Activity, then it's in the film for you.
Just watched a new Paranormal Activity film.
Yeah.
Have you heard they've ruined the franchise now?
Oh.
Do you know how, though?
How?
They've revealed what the actual monsters are and explained completely the mythology.
Oh, no.
I know, what's the point now?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
there's no mystery anymore.
It's rubbish.
That is rubbish.
And trying to think of some of the bad elements. Like I said, yeah, the bad element is mostly just there's not a lot to the script.
No.
It is just that story.
Just a style exercise.
It's just, yeah, basically, yeah. And, you know, like, yeah, there's lots of E.T. eating up the scenery, and,
yeah.
you know, but there's lots of good stuff between, like, Mia and Tom Hiddleston's characters, you know, like, they're, like, man and wife who don't really interact with each other. It's quite separate, it's quite cold and quite distant, and there's certainly a lot of fun to be had in trying to unravel the mystery, but it's mostly just reminded me of other Gothic horror things.
Other better films.
And books and stuff, you know, The Bloody Chamber, Wuthering Heights, The Innocents, you know, probably much better works than
Crimson Peak.
So, yeah, as a pure style exercise, obviously it's masterful. It's just that script. There's not a lot to the script.
No.
Which is the biggest problem with the film. So to cut the shit, it's good. It's worth a watch, but don't expect it to linger it doesn't linger like where you want it to.
More a Renter or a Netflix than the.
Watch it on Netflix. As a cinema experience goes, it was great seeing all these sets blown up to a massive scale. But overall, the film is it's not what all people expect it to be. But equally, I think a lot of critics have been way too harsh on it.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot to compliment in the film.
Do you think it's going to get like reassessments then in like
probably
10 years or so?
Probably.
Yeah.
I can see it happening. I can say I was defending it at the start.
Video proof, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's worth a watch. It's a gorgeous looking film.
Yeah.
With some really great haunting moments, but not enough depth to the script to make it linger as long as you want it to.
Yeah.
So yeah.